Have you ever looked around at your life and thought, this is not how it was supposed to be? I remember when I felt like my whole life was collapsing. My son was melting down daily and stopped going to school. My husband had a life-threatening health issue and had to leave his job. My own body broke down from the stress. And I just kept thinking, this wasn't the motherhood I signed up for. I loved my child more than anything, but I was grieving everything I had lost: the freedom to rest, the dreams I had for my child, the version of myself I used to know. No one had warned me that parenting a hypersensitive, high needs child could feel like so much loss. This is part one of a three-part podcast series on loss, grief, and growth in parenting a high needs child. In this episode, I want to name the invisible losses that come with this parenting journey and how simply naming them can help you understand why everything feels so hard and give you permission to finally start to feel what you've been carrying alone. There was a point in my parenting journey where everything I had built my life around began to collapse. My son had become increasingly violent. He stopped going to school. Every day felt like a minefield of meltdowns and unpredictability. Then my husband had a severe, life-threatening bleed and had to leave his corporate job. Overnight, our financial stability completely changed. My own body broke down. I was diagnosed with Lyme disease. I could barely function. I no longer recognized the mother and person I had worked so hard to become. Everything that once gave me a sense of identity, motherhood, career, health, friendships, social life, and especially safety, was just slipping through my fingers. All I could feel was loss, loss, and more loss. My life as I knew it was withering away. And in the darkest moments, I didn't just feel lost, I felt like I wanted to disappear. I had suicidal thoughts. I couldn't see a way forward. But slowly, through the unraveling, through the falling apart, I began to see something I wasn't expecting. I wasn't just losing, I was shedding. Because parenting a hypersensitive, high-needs child often feels like losing everything we once believed would make us happy or fulfilled. All the control we thought we had over our lives, over how motherhood would look, gets stripped away. And suddenly, it feels like this entire parenting journey is just one painful loss after another. You only see the pain. You only feel what's been taken. And when you can't see or feel any gain from what you've lived through, it leaves us feeling like victims of an unfortunate circumstance. And no one wants to feel like their child is an unfortunate circumstance. So let's talk about these losses, because unless we name them, unless we bring them into conscious awareness, the grief they carry will quietly shape the way we see ourselves, our children, and our lives. When we don't recognize what we've lost, we can't begin to process it. And if we don't process it, it lives in our bodies, in our nervous systems, running the show from the shadows and keeping us stuck in survival mode. So let's take a closer look at what we lose, why it hurts so deeply, and why it might actually be the beginning of something much deeper than we ever expected. So when you're raising a hypersensitive, high needs child, a pediatric child, let's say, the losses are multi-layered. So first there's this loss of identity. Who am I now? This is not who I imagined I would be as a mother or person. I feel like a shell of a human. This is what I often hear from the moms I work with. Then there's the loss of the dream. Many of us have these dreams about motherhood before we have kids, how things will be different from our own upbringing. We would show up differently for our kids and have all these fun experiences, but instead we're navigating meltdowns, sensory overload, and crisis mode much of the time. And how about the dreams for our child's future and how we imagined they would turn out and all the things they could do? Those go out the window too. Then there's the loss of control, and this is a big one. We can't change our kids or how they are wired. And I often thought if I did everything right, if I could help my child to be different, then things would be better. I thought if I found the perfect strategy or healed my own trauma fast enough, my child would feel better, behave better, and our life would be easier. But instead, our experiences leave us feeling like we have no control to affect change in our kids. Then there's the loss of belonging. We don't fit in with other families or spaces. I imagine connecting with other parents through shared experiences. Instead, I often feel like we're on the outside looking in. There's also the loss of connection. Friends who drift, family who just doesn't get it, people you thought would show up for you disappear. Then there's the loss of connection with your spouse or partner because you're both in overwhelm. And how about the loss of the connection you expected to have with your child, thinking that they would always reciprocate your bids for connection and care? That's a big one. Then there's the loss of health for some of us. Chronic stress and burnout take a toll on our bodies, and our nervous systems get stuck in stress or shut down. There's also the loss of joy. Activities that once brought lightness now feel loaded or impossible, like vacations or even simple outings. They become the source of dread instead of a source of delight. There's the loss of a career for some of us. Many of us have to leave our jobs or change our professional lives entirely to support a child who can't attend school or tolerate the typical systems. We give up financial stability or creative fulfillment or the professional identity we once held. And finally, there's the loss of freedom. This is the biggest one of all that I hear from all the moms. The loss of freedom to travel, to be spontaneous, or simply to just take a break from it all and do what we need to take care of ourselves in our own homes. Our child's need for constant co-regulation, autonomy, and control can leave us feeling like we have no freedom to choose what we want for ourselves. So that is a lot of loss that I just named. And if you saw yourself in that, and if you're triggered right now, please take a moment to help yourself feel more present. So perhaps feel your feet on the floor or look around the room and notice something comforting, or even just bring a hand to your heart and offer yourself some compassion. So why does our brain perceive so much loss? Your brain isn't wrong for interpreting this as loss. It's actually wired to do so. This is innate. We all have mental maps from childhood and society that define what a good life or a good mother should be, or what success, safety, and belonging should look like. So when our parenting experience goes against those models, your brain says, this is wrong, this is unsafe, this is failure. But that's just programming. It's not the truth. These thoughts are just reflecting our cultural conditioning. So here's a question I invite you to ponder next. What if the real loss here isn't your life falling apart, but the unraveling of everything you were taught to believe would keep you safe, worthy, and successful? What most of us call loss is often just the shedding of conditioning, the beliefs we inherited from family, school, religion, and culture that no longer serve us. So we often take on beliefs like a good mom is always calm and control and selfless, or a successful child is compliant, high achieving, and independent, or a safe life is predictable, stable, and socially acceptable. Or love is something we earn by being good, agreeable, and easy to be around. This is our conditioning. And when our kids don't fit those expectations of our mental maps, we're forced to confront how much of our identity was built on keeping those systems running. And when those systems fall apart, we think we're falling apart. But what if you're not falling apart? What if you're waking up? Our children challenge the programming we've lived by. They don't follow the rules. They don't follow the rules that we were taught to obey. They push back against compliance. They push back against perfectionism and performance. And yes, it's hard. It's very hard when you come up against this and you're so triggered. But they're also inviting us into something far more honest. They're saying, stop pretending, Mom. Stop abandoning yourself, Mom. Stop forcing a life that doesn't fit, Mom. So once you recognize that what's dying is the conditioning and not your truth, you begin to reclaim your power. You get to ask, do I actually believe this? Does this feel right for me and my child? What do I want to teach them about success, love, and belonging? This is the beginning of living in alignment with your true values and not society or culture's values. So here's the invitation to take in. You are not your brain. You are the awareness behind it. So start noticing, oh, my brain is saying this is wrong, but maybe it's just different from what my brain learned and expected. That awareness creates space to ask, do I want to keep living through this lens? Is there something more authentic waiting to emerge? So the invitation here is to notice and become aware of how your brain is automatically telling you that you are losing or failing, and to be with that instead of taken over by those thoughts. So notice it as an automatic thought that your brain is designed to generate. And this is not who you really are. This is a brain on autopilot designed to do this. Then question it, really question it. Do you really want to live with beliefs that create more suffering for you and don't allow you to show up with love and acceptance for yourself and your child? Our children are here to help us challenge the generational conditioning we inherited. They are not breaking us, they are breaking the patterns. And once we start to see it for what it is, a natural grief response can begin to emerge. So many of us are grieving these losses without even knowing it. Because all this loss, it's not just about external circumstances. It's about the internal programming that told us what life should look like. And when that programming starts to unravel, it's not failure, it's an invitation. In part 2, we'll explore what happens when we begin to feel the impact of all we've lost. We'll talk about how grief shows up in the nervous system, in our emotional cycles, and even in our childhood wounds. We'll explore the 5 stages of grief, the reality of ambiguous loss, and what it means to begin to move through it. The next conversation may touch something tender, so be gentle with yourself. But know this, if you've been feeling heavy, overwhelmed, or even numb, you're not broken, you're grieving, and you're not alone. So I'll see you in the next episode. And if this really spoke to you, please share it with other parents too.